So the last thing here is just an update on the stimulus bill for the Americans, because this was something we covered earlier, and it was an absolute joke because of the pork inside. So the benefits for unemployment expired recently, and this was because the stimulus bill wasn't passed, so people weren't getting their checks. So the problem here is, do you sign it, do you not? Because, of course, it's a terrible bill, and the reason it's a terrible bill, if we can show up the next one, was the amount of pork in it. And this is The Hill, which is a left-leaning outlet, but did a great job here of listing the problems with it. Exhibit A. Of the funds appropriated under Title III of this Act that are made available for assistance for Pakistan, not less than 15 million shall be available for democracy programs, and not less than 10 million shall be made available for gender programs. And this is The Hill's words. Yep, 10 million for gender programs in Pakistan. It's like, right, okay, that's what American tax money needs to be spent on, does it? Like, maybe you agree that Pakistan needs some gender studies, or whatever, right? Okay, maybe it's an unequal society, it's an Islamic society, therefore we need to reform it into being, I don't know, un-Islamic, because that's the only solution you're going to get there to gender equality, in my view. But so okay, fine, use your own money. You don't need to use taxpayers' money to do this. Definitely not $10 million.
No, it's a weird time to kind of shoehorn that into a bill as well. I think they're relying on the fact that no one's going to read that ridiculously long, what was it? 5,500 pages or something like that.
Garbage.
And some of the stuff in there is absurd. I've seen some of it myself, and it's so obvious that representatives are just throwing stuff in there, hoping that it sticks.
Yeah, so we got a lot more that's ridiculous here. But I just love the idea of the two gender professors in Pakistan. I just sat there like, holy, like, 5 million each. Anyway, Exhibit B, funds for resource study of Springfield race riot. The riot that occurred in, check notes, 1908. A race riot in 1908. They're going to do a resource study on that riot. Okay.
Wait, how much was that again? Sorry?
They didn't have a price tag there, but just funds, as the wording was. Exhibit C, statement of policy regarding the succession or reincarnation of the Dalai Lama. Yeah, we'll just leave that one there. That's one you spend money on. Exhibit D, there's actually a commission tasked with educating consumers about the dangers associated with using or storing portable fuel containers for flammable liquids near an open fire. So if you have flammable liquids, the government needs to be in charge of making sure that you know that it's flammable and shouldn't use it.
I would imagine that most people are perfectly aware that that's a problem.
I mean,
that's a little bit insulting, isn't it?
The government warning on it that flammable is that not a giveaway? But okay, fine, that's worth money. Exhibit E, another $40 million will be allocated for the necessary expenses for the operation, maintenance, and security of the Kennedy Space Center, which received $25 million in additional aids this year. Kennedy Space Center has been closed for the entire year. So that'll be, $65 million for the year for something that isn't running?
What's the justification for that? Is that paying for the...
I'm assuming it's because, I don't even know if the government shut it down, but the argument would be the government shut it down because of coronavirus, therefore it should be given money because we blocked it from operating. 65 million?
That's a bit steep, isn't it? I don't know how much it needs to run, but that seems like a lot.
For a mothballed centre, okay. And then they list here exhibits F, G, H, I, and J. 86 million for assistance in Cambodia, 130 million for Nepal, 135 million for Burma, 453 million for Ukraine, and 700 million for Sudan. Exhibit K. The bill creates a women's history museum and an American Latino museum as part of the Smithsonian. So, gender segregated museums, racial segregated museums, and money for everyone who's foreign. It's like... This is awful. Not the time. This is not the time to be giving millions and millions of dollars.
Yeah, surely the American economy should have as much cash injected into it as possible. They shouldn't be donating it to loads of foreign countries. It should be a time where they're investing money inwards, not outwards.
And this is the Hill saying this. So, don't say, this is the right wing obsessed with foreign aid. Like, no, that's not the problem. Everyone's broke right now. The United States is probably going to be in a depression by next year. So
yeah, no doubt.
And the media response to this has been pathetic, like transparently pathetic. So if we can get Reuters up, this is Reuters' response to Trump turning around and saying, this bill is garbage, it's full of garbage, I'm not signing it. So their response was, Trump refuses to budge over aid bill, imperiling jobless benefits for millions. It's like, yeah.
They don't even say why he opposes it.
No, the quote from here is, Trump stunned Republicans and Democrats alike last week when he was unhappy with the massive bill which provides $892 billion in bad needed relief, and then fails to mention the contents of the bill.
Wow, that framing.
Like, doesn't tell you all the pork, the millions for foreign aid, the millions for gender studies programs and all the rest of it. No mention of that, because why would you? And it's the same from the BBC. We can get the BBC up. Their headline being, COVID, Trump fails to sign economic relief bill into law. So, Trump man bad because he's failed to sign relief for COVID. It's like, okay.
That's such transparent framing. I don't understand how on earth they think they can get away with that, because even the people that voted for it were complaining about it.
But there's obviously the additional problem here that the lockdowns are primarily within Democrat-run states and areas, because, of course, they're also the cities, so they're the most densely populated. So it's actually somewhat a bipartisan issue, because, of course, the Republicans value personal freedom more, therefore less lockdowns, less need for government shutdowns that shut down the business, therefore you don't need relief. But all the Democrats need the relief because they've all shut down their states. So there's that bipartisan problem. But the BBC isn't gonna mention that. They're not going to talk about that, because why would they? So the BBC says millions of Americans have temporarily lost their employment benefits after President Donald Trump failed to sign the COVID relief bill into law. No details whatsoever about that bill, because why would you? That would mean that Orange Man isn't bad, and Orange Man is bad. So can't say anything like that. They also say the coronavirus economic relief is part of the $2.3 trillion spending package that includes $1.4 trillion for normal federal government spending. Normal federal government spending. Sending $10 million for gender programs in Pakistan is normal spending, folks. That's exactly normal. Nothing funny about that whatsoever. Thanks, BBC. So they then go on to take a quote from Biden, saying that Biden praised the example of members of Congress in compromising and reaching a bipartisan agreement, adding that President Trump should join them and make sure that millions of Americans can put food on the table and keep a roof over their heads in this holiday season. Biden cares. Biden's a man who cares. He's a politician who cares.
I've never seen such a partisan article by the BBC, which is really saying something, actually.
Yeah, I mean, the BBC's bad at the best of times, but they no whole bars on this one.
This is so transparent, I can't believe it.
So they do mention here that on Twitter, the president had reiterated his objection to the bill, saying, I simply want to put our great people $2,000, rather than the messy $600 that is now in the bill. That's it. They cut up all the criticism of the pork, all the millions of dollars being sent overseas. No, that's the only objection he has, folks. It's like, no, that's not the only objection, obviously. And this is bad because it allowed the Democrats to do this whole thing where it's like, oh, okay, fine, we'll up the money for from 600 to 2,000 and not take anything else out. It's like, great. So you just made the bill 500 billion more expensive, and didn't get rid of any of the pork.
Yeah, I think the media has given the Democrats an opportunity to keep all of this stuff that they've shoehorned in. I'm assuming it's Democrats, judging by the kind of things that they've added to it.
I want to be fair. Yeah, a lot of it is them, but my understanding is it's not entirely them. There were some accusations that Ted Cruz, for example, had been shoehorning in a few million in relief for oil firms, but I haven't been able to read the whole thing, so I didn't want to include it. But
wasn't there also something about streaming services in there as well?
Yeah, there was a whole bunch of nonsense, but this gets worse. CNN's probably the funniest. That's their headline, so we can get that one up. It's just Trump's refusal to sign relief bill shows the chaos of the whole thing. Like, chaos. There's just chaos going on because he won't sign this bill. It's like, well, why would he? It's trash. Right? Who would want to?
It's so strange that they're putting the responsibility on Trump when he wasn't the one that drafted this ridiculous bill. He's just the one that's got to sign it once it's been voted on in Congress.
The House Democrats put this together, put it in front of him, and was like, why won't you sign it? How dare you not sign it? It's like, I mean, if you sent me a bill for executing half the population, I'm also not going to sign it. Like, why would you do that? So Trump gave a statement about this. He said, I will send back to Congress the red line version, item by item, accompanied by the formal recession request to Congress, investing that those funds be removed from the bill. I am signing this bill to restore unemployment benefits, stop evictions, provide rental assistance, and add money for PPP, return our airline workers back to work, and add substantially more money to vaccine distribution and much more. So this is his response. So this I have criticism of, so if we can get the next one up as well, you can see that Trump signs the bill. So he did sign it, but he signed it with red lines of saying, get rid of this, get rid of that, get rid of this, get rid of that. So all of the nonsense, get rid of that stuff.
Okay.
Which, it then goes to the Senate, is my understanding from the research we've done, and it's up to the Republican, or it should be Republican-controlled Senate, to determine what to do with it. But it's obviously disappointing to see him sign it, even if he's redlining stuff and saying this needs to go, but the rest of it's fine. Because the problem is you need to make the point to the Democrats. No, you're not sending $10 million to Pakistan for gender programs at this time. Like, Jesus Christ. But as I mentioned, the problem with this is the framing. So I think he did a bad job here where he did allow himself to be quoted in a way like the BBC did, in which they made the point that his objection was that it's $600, not $2,000. And that was all of the left-wing headlines, and it's all the... I don't want to say mainstream. Yeah, mainstream, why not? The BBC's mainstream. It's not...
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yeah. That's the problem with the bill, and that's Trump's only objection. So AOC and I think Rashida Tlaib were able to propose that should be the change, and that was the only change they made. Kept in the gender programs, because why wouldn't you? Like, why should we get rid of them? So, if you can get the next link up, the CNBC. So, yeah, passing it for $2,000 stimulus checks, leaving it to the GOP-controlled Senate. So this is bad framing for Republicans. This is not great PR, because it makes you look like they're doing all the right things. They're giving the $200, and it's not you who are the ones who are like, no, we're not gonna pass all this pork. You better give that money to the American people instead of foreigners for gender programs.
Well,
I'm harping on that one a lot, but it's the point of like what was in there as well. There was like the millions of dollars being sent to Israel for the Iron Dome. So, God, I mean, even in the best of times, this is debatable, but in now, which is the worst of times, it's not debatable. You can't be said so.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and I think what the media has failed to report on is just how much along the political divide people are opposing this bill, even though many of them still voted for it. Like, many Democrats were frustrated with all the stuff that had been shoehorned in, and none of that is mentioned. That it's being framed as if the Republicans are opposing giving the American people aid money, as opposed to the fact that the bill is chock full of loads of irrelevant nonsense to that issue.
Yeah, which is a shame. I don't know how he would have solved it. You know, I'm not a political genius like the Gol Emperor, but there is obviously a problem here that the PR war has been lost to some extent. But this is why you need to watch alternative media. You cannot just watch mainstream media and read mainstream news outlets like this. Yeah. Because they just will not give you the facts. They will give you their version of events, which leaves everything else out. And sure, maybe you're a big fan of Pakistani gender programs. Maybe you're a Pakistani gender professor, and you're really outraged that I'm saying these things. But I'm glad you're watching, I guess.